My girlfriend used $3,000 of our savings to travel with her ex. But when I found the emails and sexual messages, I froze everything. Exposed her to everyone, and her ex abandoned her at the airport. I'm 28 years old, work in logistics for a distribution company, and honestly, I need to tell this story because what happened a few months ago still has me processing everything. You know, like when something so surreal happens to you that your brain takes a while to accept it was real. I guess I should start from the beginning. I mean, from when I met Heather like 3.5 years ago, because you need to understand how everything was before it all went to shit. I met Heather at a mutual friend's party, one of those gatherings where you don't know anyone and you end up glued to the wall with a warm beer in your hand. She arrived late, with that kind of energy that makes everyone turn to see who came in, and I don't know how, but we ended up talking all night about absolutely everything, from bad 90s movies to conspiracy theories about fast food. She was smart, funny, had that kind of laugh that makes you want to keep telling bad jokes just to hear it again. We started dating, like a week later, and honestly, things flowed super naturally from the start. No drama, no red flags, just two people who got along well and enjoyed being together. The first 2 years were, I don't know how to say this without sounding cheesy, but they were good. Really good. We moved in together after like 8 months, which maybe was fast, but at the time it made sense because we were basically already living at each other's apartments anyway. We got a decent place downtown, nothing fancy, but it was ours, and we split everything 50-50. Rent, utilities, food, everything. We even opened a joint savings account for the future, like for vacations or emergencies or whatever, and we both put in an amount each month religiously. She worked in marketing for a cosmetics company. Made good money. I did too. And honestly, we never had money problems or anything like that. The thing is that looking back, I think things started to change like 6 months before everything exploded, but they were such subtle changes that I didn't register them as alarms at the time. Heather started spending more time on her phone, but like everyone spends a lot of time on their phones now, right? So I didn't think anything of it. Then she started taking her phone to the bathroom every time she showered, putting it face down when we were watching movies, that kind of stuff that your brain notices but your heart decides to ignore because you don't want to be that paranoid, controlling boyfriend who checks phones. There was also like a new distance between us. Nothing super obvious, just that conversations felt more superficial. Sex was less frequent, that kind of gradual shift that happens in relationships sometimes and that you tell yourself is normal, that all couples go through phases. Everything started to really go to shit in February of this year. I was checking our joint savings account because I wanted to see how much we had saved up, like I was thinking maybe we could take a trip, or something in the summer. And when I logged into the bank app, I almost had a heart attack. $3,000 were missing. Literally $3,000 that weren't there. And I knew exactly how much should be there because I'm kind of obsessive about finances, and I checked that account like every 2 weeks. The withdrawal had been made 3 days earlier, and when I looked at the transaction history, it was a withdrawal that Heather had made in person at a branch. I confronted her that same night when she got home from work. I tried to stay calm, like I didn't want to start accusing her of anything without hearing her explanation first. So I basically said, "Hey, I saw you withdrew $3,000 from the savings account. What happened?" And she didn't get nervous or anything. In fact, she was super calm, almost too calm now that I think about it. And she told me she had planned a surprise, that she was going to take a girls' trip with her friend Andrea, one of her college friends, she had supposedly recently reconnected with. She explained this whole elaborate plan about how they were going to Cancun for a week, that she needed the money for the hotel and flights and everything because she wanted to pay for it all at once to get better prices, and that it was going to be in like 3 weeks. And here's the thing. I believed her. Completely. Because Heather had never given me reasons not to believe her in 3 years. She had never lied about anything important. I mean, why would she make up something so specific? I told her I would have liked her to consult me before taking out that much money at once from our shared account. But that I understood, and hoped she had fun. She kissed me, thanked me for being so understanding, and that night things felt like before, close and comfortable, and I felt like an idiot for having doubted even for a second. The next 2 weeks were weird. Heather was super excited, buying new clothes for the trip, talking all the time. about the beach and cocktails and how excited Andrea was, but she also kept being weird with her phone, and she started staying up late sending messages when she thought I was asleep. One night, I got up at 2 in the morning to go to the bathroom and saw her sitting in the living room with the phone screen lighting up her face, smiling. In that way she used to smile at me. And when she saw me, she startled and closed the app super fast. She told me she was looking at memes and couldn't sleep, and I went back to bed with that uncomfortable feeling in my stomach that I couldn't name, but that I knew meant something. 3 days before her trip, Heather left early to do some last-minute shopping. She left her laptop open on the dining room table, something she normally never did, and well, something in me broke that day. I'm not proud of what I did, but I did it. I checked her laptop. I went into her Gmail, which was easy because she was automatically logged in, and I started searching for anything related to Andrea or the Cancun trip. I didn't find anything about Andrea. Nothing. But what I did find were like 30 emails between Heather and someone named Garrett, who, after reading 2 messages, I realized was her ex-boyfriend, the guy she had been with before meeting me. The emails were, I don't even know how to describe them. They were romantic, intimate, completely inappropriate for someone in a committed relationship. They talked about how much they missed each other, about how breaking up had been a mistake, about how this time they were going to do things right. And then, and this is what killed me, there were hotel reservation confirmations for 2 people in Tulum, not Cancun, under the names of Heather and Garrett. The dates matched exactly with her supposed girls' trip. There were even messages where they planned romantic activities, beachfront dinners, that kind of shit that makes you want to throw up when you discover your girlfriend of 3 years is planning it with another guy using the money you both had been saving. I sat there in the dining room for I don't know how long, literally frozen, reading email after email, message after message, confirmation after confirmation. I also found her text messages when I managed to connect her phone to the laptop, because apparently she had everything synced, and there were the messages with Garrett, hundreds of them, months of conversations that had been happening right under my nose. Messages saying, I love you. Sexual messages. Messages making fun of how easy it had been to fool me. That was probably the worst moment of my life up to that point, like when your entire reality crumbles in the span of an hour and you realize that the last few months, maybe even the last year, of your relationship had been a complete lie. When Heather came home that afternoon, I acted completely normal. I don't know where I got the strength to do it, but I did. I asked her about her shopping, nodded while she showed me a new bikini she had bought for her romantic trip with her ex, I thought as I smiled, and even helped her pack her suitcase. The thing is, my brain was already in strategic mode. I was furious, devastated, betrayed, all of that. But there was also a cold and calculating part that had awakened and was planning exactly how I was going to handle this. The day Heather left for her trip, I drove her to the airport. I kissed her, told her to send me photos, to have fun. With Andrea, he almost laughed when I said it, and watched her disappear through security with her new suitcase and her new bikini and my $3,000 funding her betrayal. I drove back to the apartment, and that's where I started executing my plan. First, I called the bank. I explained the situation. Without giving too many details, just said I needed to temporarily freeze our joint account for security reasons. The representative asked if both account holders agreed. I said yes, a lie, but whatever. And in literally 10 minutes, the account was frozen. All associated cards, blocked. Any attempt to withdraw money, denied. Then I started packing my things. Not everything, just the essentials, clothes, important documents, my laptop, that kind of stuff. I called my brother, explained the basics of the situation, and he said I could stay at his apartment as long as I needed. By the end of the day, I had moved most of my important belongings and was sleeping on my brother's couch. Heather arrived in Tulum that night. I know because I received like 15 messages from her with photos of the resort, the sunset, her room carefully not showing Garrett, obviously. All while I was lying on my brother's couch, staring at the ceiling and processing that my 3-year relationship had ended. I didn't respond to the messages immediately. I waited until the next morning to send a simple, looks nice, have fun, keeping her completely unsuspecting that I knew everything. The real show started on the second day of her trip. I got a call from Heather around 2 in the afternoon, local time here. She was hysterical, absolutely hysterical, screaming about how her card had been declined at a restaurant, how she had tried the other card and it was also declined, how she had gone to an ATM and couldn't withdraw money. She was asking me what had happened, if there was a bank error, if someone had hacked our account. Her voice sounded genuinely scared, and part of me, that stupid part that still loved her despite everything, felt a little sorry, but just a little. I told her very calmly, "Hey, Heather, I need you to tell me the truth about something. Are you really with Andrea in Cancun?" There was a silence on the other end of the line, a silence so long and heavy that I could feel it crushing my chest, even through the phone. Then she started stammering, "Of course I'm with Andrea. Why are you asking me that? What's happening with the cards?" And that's when I dropped everything on her. I told her I had seen the emails, the messages, the hotel confirmations, everything, that I knew she was in Tulum with Garrett, that I had frozen the accounts because I wasn't going to finance her romantic getaway with her ex, that when she came back, I wouldn't be at the apartment anymore, that basically, we were done. The sound Heather made at that moment is something I'll probably never forget. It was like a mixture of scream and sob, this almost animal sound of someone who just got caught and knows there's no way out of this. She tried to deny it first, then tried to justify it, saying I didn't understand her, that she had felt lonely, that she and Garrett had history, basically every generic infidelity excuse you can imagine. I told her I didn't care about her excuses, to have a nice rest of her trip, not to contact me again, and I hung up. I blocked her number immediately after. The next few days were an emotional roller coaster. Heather tried to contact me, through every possible means, Instagram, Facebook, email. She sent me like 100 text messages from unknown numbers, some furious calling me controlling and abusive for freezing the accounts, others pleading, promising we could fix this, that it had been a mistake, that she loved me, not Garrett. I ignored them all. I blocked all the numbers, all the accounts, everything. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a response. Meanwhile, I finished moving out of the apartment. The lease was in both our names, but I talked to the landlord and explained I was moving out for personal reasons. I told him Heather would handle the full rent from now on, or find someone to take my place. But that I was out. It was complicated legally. But we eventually worked it out. I left the keys and never looked back. The most satisfying part, in a dark and probably unhealthy way, was what happened after. Apparently, according to what I found out later from mutual friends, Garrett left Heather basically at the end of the trip. Like, the guy had been looking for a free exotic adventure, because guess who had paid for most of the trip with our shared savings? But when he realized the drama that was coming with Heather, that she was now without money, without a place to live because I had left the apartment, without a boyfriend to support her, he basically told her it had been fun, but that he wasn't looking for a serious relationship. He left her at the airport when they got back, literally got in a separate Uber and blocked her from everything. Heather tried to go back to the apartment, but discovered I had removed my name from the lease, and that now the full rent was her responsibility. Like $1,300 that she alone couldn't pay with her salary after having spent our savings on her betrayal trip. She tried staying with friends for a while, but apparently she had been telling everyone that I had abandoned her for no reason, that I had been cruel and controlling, a whole victim narrative she had built. That was until I decided to send a mass email to our mutual friends with screenshots of the messages between her and Garrett, the hotel confirmations, the bank transactions, everything. I didn't say anything extra, just attached the evidence with a simple message that said, "So you know the truth about why I ended things with Heather," and sent it. The response was immediate. Several friends sent me messages apologizing for believing her version. Others were just shocked because Heather had always seemed so perfect, so honest. She basically lost her entire social circle in one weekend. Her best friend, who had been like her sister for years, told her she didn't want anything to do with her after seeing the evidence. It was brutal. And again, part of me felt bad for her, but a bigger part was satisfied that the truth was out there. As for the $3,000, Heather tried for months to recover her share. Technically, half was hers because we had contributed equally, but I refused to unfreeze the account or give her access to the money. It was petty, I completely admit it, but after everything that had happened, after she had used that money to betray me in the most humiliating way possible, I felt it was the minimum karma she could receive. Eventually, she got a lawyer who sent me a demand letter, and my own lawyer advised me that legally I had to give her half. I did, finally, like 6 months later, but only after she paid me her share of the last apartment and utility bills that I had covered when I left. In the end, I gave her like $1,200 of the $3,000, after deductions, and sent her a detailed receipt of everything. She never responded. The last time I heard about Heather was like 2 months ago. A mutual friend, one of the few who still talk to her, told me she had to move back in with her parents because she couldn't afford a place on her own, that she had lost her job at the cosmetics company because apparently the drama had affected her performance, and that she was working in retail while trying to rebuild her life. He asked me if I had any satisfaction knowing that, and honestly, I felt nothing. No satisfaction or pity or sadness, just a kind of neutral emptiness. That person who had been the center of my world for 3 years had become a stranger, whose life I no longer cared about at all. As for me, the first few months after all this were difficult, I'm not going to lie. I was angry all the time, had trouble sleeping, basically went through all the stages of grief but in random order and sometimes all at the same time. I started going to the gym more often, like as a way to channel all that negative energy into something productive, and that helped a lot. I reconnected with college friends I had lost touch with because Heather had. I never wanted to socialize much with them, and I realized how much of my social life I had sacrificed to please her. I focused on my work, got a promotion, moved into my own apartment, one that was just mine, and where I could do whatever I wanted without having to consider another person. Like a month ago, I started dating someone new. Nothing serious yet, just seeing where it goes, but it's refreshing to be with someone who is direct and honest and doesn't play mind games. She knows about Heather. I told her the condensed version on our third date because I felt she deserved to know why I'm a bit cautious about certain things, and she was super understanding about it. I don't know if it'll work out long term, but for now it's good, and that's enough. What I learned from all this, and I know it sounds cliché, but it's true, is that you need to trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, when you notice changes in your partner that you can't explain, when your gut tells you something is going on even if your head says you're being paranoid, you should probably listen to that voice. I also learned that some people are capable of building elaborate lies with an ease that's terrifying, and that you can spend years with someone and not really know them at all. And maybe the most important lesson was learning to respect myself enough to leave when someone betrays me, without giving second chances, without falling for empty promises of change. Do I regret how I handled everything? Not really. Maybe I was a bit cruel with the freezing the accounts thing without warning her, and I was definitely petty with sending the screenshots to all our friends. But honestly, after someone betrays you so completely, so deliberately, I think you have the right to protect yourself and make sure the truth is known. I could have been the bigger person and just left quietly, but that's not me, and I don't apologize for that. Life goes on. Heather is still a name that occasionally pops up in my head, usually when I see something that reminds me of the good times we had, but those moments are getting less and less frequent. I'm building a life that's more authentic, more mine, without the shadow of someone who turned out to be a completely different person from who I thought she was. And I guess in the end, even though everything was horrible and traumatic and left me with trust issues, I'll probably be working through for years. It also freed me from a relationship that was founded on lies. Better to have found out at 3 years than at 10, or worse, after we had gotten married or had kids. So yeah, that's my story. The girl I thought was the love of my life turned out to be a liar and cheater who spent our shared savings on a romantic trip with her ex. I got revenge in petty but satisfying ways, and now I'm on the other side trying to rebuild and move forward. It's not the fairy tale ending I imagined when we moved in together 2.5 years ago, but it's real, it's honest, and it's mine.